What is the philosophy in relation to life beyond, in its relation to Ka?
Well, I think if you're asking me, do things transition from one state of matter to another, which means matter and spirit, I'm saying yes. I'm saying it takes a different form. I'm saying we don't have all the answers to that. I'm saying the answers we do have leads us to know from what they actually argue in physics, which no energy is ever lost or created. It's only transformed.
Right. It changes form.
And so the things that we are change form. Spirit form, change form. The energy that powers us up to get up in the morning, that's just a transition to another form. And so I say all that to say, nothing really dies. It just passes into another form. We can use the word die, but the energy passes into another form, if that's what you're asking me. And Ka is tied directly to that, because it is the system of birth, death, and rebirth. This double life, this Ba, this Ka, this doubleness, this double, that lays the foundation for you to recognize that these opposites are in use everywhere. And so, what you see and then what you don't see, that's a unity. Yeah. What you understand and what you don't understand, that's a unity. Yeah. The possibilities and the reality, those are unities. And so again, I would say clearly those transitions do take place in the world that we see and the world that we don't see, if that's what you're asking me.
Okay. One of the things that we do a lot of times is I say we as a community, not just anybody in particular, we have a tendency to preach to the choir. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It's like we're throwing information out there, but we're talking to people that already kind of know this information already. We forget that there are people who are just coming into the information, the knowledge. Mm-hmm. And so, always make sure that, and I know these two brothers and yourself is included, you guys always make sure you put the information out there, even though it may seem old to others. Mm-hmm. And then people have a tendency to scroll right on by, and that's their right. But we have a responsibility to make sure that we teach and transmit the information, no matter how old, no matter how new, no matter how fresh, to everybody. Mm-hmm. So we have to remember that as teachers, even the old information is valuable.
Yes.
Okay. So that brings me to my point, and I'm like, I have my own something in my mind right now about Ka. Mm-hmm. The invading hordes that came into Kemet.
Yes.
They came in, raped us, like vampires, sucked us dry.
Yes.
Took our information, used it for themselves.
Yes.
They didn't quite understand what this Ka thing was anyway. So, without getting mythical about it, people have to understand, because we might have new people listening to this. We understand that Ka in Kemet was the divine spirit. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you hear us say the Netcharu. Mm-hmm. Our Ba mm-hmm. can be included in that divine spirit. Mm-hmm. We all have a connection to the Netcharu, that mm-hmm. divine spirit. We have a Ka. Everybody has a Ka. Mm-hmm. So we have a responsibility to improve ourselves mm-hmm. through the principle of Ma'at. Mm-hmm. As a result, once we do that, as we improve on ourselves and we enlighten our Ba, our soul, our personal, that original self that mm-hmm. makes us us, mm-hmm. then the Kat, which is the body, becomes a temple. Mm-hmm. You hear people say all the time that you are your temple, you are what you eat, and that is very true. But it's also what you put in your head. Absolutely. And what it puts in your mind. Absolutely. That's when your body, your Kat, becomes mm-hmm. the temple.
Yeah.
You have to be an enlightened Ba in order for you to be a temple. Once you consider yourself worthy to be part of that Necharu, of that divine spirit, then now your systems come into place. Your methodologies come into place. You have to have a pure spirit to understand what these systems are. Okay? Now, that doesn't mean that we can't get militarized and get our arms and get our defense tools and weapons and things like that. That doesn't stop us from doing that. But will you agree that Ka starts with being enlightened with oneself, and as a result, enlightening as the community goes, as the individual goes, the community goes? And I mean, just give me your take on that real quick. On
I think a better example would be Ma'at. Most persons who had written about it before we started writing left it up in the air. They did not appreciate that this was behavioral.
Thank you. Yeah.
You know, you're judged on what you do here,
Right.
how you treat people. Did you leave a ship, a boat for them? Did you leave some food? Did you take care of that child that didn't have a home? That's what they're talking about.
Right.
Did you pay these people who you owed? Did you took that lamb? Did you give it back? Did you treat that older person well? You go through all these confessions of innocence, and you see us talking about behavior.
Exactly.
Did you respect your wife, your mother, your parents in their age? So the ethical and moral foundation to Ma'at is the key to it. That's the balance.
There you go.
It's what you did. And the same thing with this car, because most people won't get this. I'll say this. We may have wasted a great opportunity after these white people ran us in the ground, because that should have speeded up our psychology of toughness.
There you go.
And we should be facing them eye to eye, like the Chinese face.
Right now. Yeah.
You see, when they met us soft, I'm just trying to break this down quickly. They met us because our environment was an environment that allowed us to be softened. Things were there for us. You could pick it off the tree. Nature's right there. Conditions, we didn't have to fight initially. Look at Kemet. It had the major mountains in one place, desert on the other side, just terrain that was difficult to have groups of people coming in there invading.
Right.
But as these populations developed their technologies and their capacity to find ways and stuff, they were able to circumvent that. Right. And Kemet could not adjust quickly enough militarily. And that's why they lost, because they would have had those fort walls up and done everything they could to crush these people in there, but they couldn't adjust.
Right.
Well, as I explained before about psychology being tied directly to culture, and then culture being tied directly to environment, the philosophy that we're bringing forth says in substance that these two opposites met. They had something that allowed them to crush us. Here we are in this stomach right now.
Right.
If we were doing right by ourselves, we would have gotten them damn schools in every area of science and took their history and put it in the trash can, except for passing exams, and taught our own kids on the weekend and after school. We would have been doing that. Their accurate history. You knew they were lying, so why waste time arguing with them about lying?
Right.
You knew they were lying, and they knew they were lying.
Right.
They know.
Right.
They're sitting there with the stuff.
Right.
They're the one telling you, oh, that means Kent with the black people. That's the word mean that. Those are black people. They knew. They're scratching their head. Why in the hell these black people build these characters? These are black people. So they had it first.
Right.
But we didn't. So these two opposites are together. The white people system is coming undone. And I try to explain to people that you can't just lock a system as if it's the same one it was 100 years ago or 50 years ago. It's coming undone not because of bad people. It's coming undone because they have a system of competition that's tied directly to profit that's based on production now with robots. And you cannot produce toothpaste or cars cheaper than them with human beings with robots.
That's right.
The robots are going to have more productivity. They're going to produce 100 cars for every one car that the human being produces. They see that. And so how are you going to sell it?
Right.
Your whole system is based on you getting a wage and then buying something with that wage. When you don't have a job, how are you going to get a wage?
Exactly.
So that's coming undone.
Right.
That has nothing to do with us.
Right.
And it ain't nothing to do with bad people. That's just
Right.
the system.
Right.
Now, how do we benefit from that?
How do we take advantage?
How do we take advantage of it? And that's what our thinkers have not loosened their head to get to.
Exactly.
KA puts you in a position to see that
Okay.
and the mistake you made. So the point I'm trying to make is it's an applied area of life. So you do have to know in order to do. Same thing with Ma'at. You have to know in order to do. You're not born good or bad. You're born with both. And when you say good or bad, I mean your spirit.
Right.
You have both.
Right.
And so when I made the comment that you have what you inherited, some of it, sometimes you have birth defects, you inherited that. You can't do anything about that. You in an environment, I was born in a poor environment. My mother was an alcoholic my whole whole life in high school. She fought her way through it and cleaned her life up later, but my whole first 19 years were hell. That was my environment. I had that coach and the environment of winning that taught me things, but I say all that to say, I didn't allow my environment to crush me.
No.
My personal response, which is what we're talking about, Ma'at Ka, was to face that situation and go through it. We needed to face these whites and go through them. And in most cases, we didn't. The 1960s showed us that.
Right.
We should not have let them beat us that way and run over us that way and put dogs on us that way because they think they should be able to do that now.
Right.
And that's when you see the police killing us in the street. They think that it's okay to do that. You see, because we allow them to think that it's okay to treat us any kind of way. They don't do that to those Arabs around here. They know they'll put a bomb, they'll do something.
Right.
But we let people treat us a certain way. That's KA. So you have the opposites coming together.
Right.
And then the one that has its substance, we have to be who we are in this life. And we haven't been that. You see, we've laid down in many instances. And I say all that clearly about this work.